How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys Alex and Ryan. So today we're talking about Gleyber Torres, and of course he kind of pops up every now and then. We love Gleyber Torres. We think that he should be kept and extended. But ESPN insider Kiley McDaniel did suggest the fact that he's in his final year of arbitration. He has an estimated $15 million salary. The Yankees theoretically could move off of him for value now, replace him with Peraza, DJ LeMahieu, smooth over that spot. But again, you're losing your second best hitter currently. If you go get Juan Soto, Gleyber Torres is your third, fourth best hitter if Anthony Rizzo comes back and performs well. But right now, I'm in the boat that we keep him. I think that why would you get rid of your second best offensive player on this roster currently and open up a liability? Like why would you actively do that to yourself unless you're going to get a player that's going to be substantially good in the future, has really great upside, or is MLB ready now? So Kiley McDaniel did present the idea of trading Gleyber Torres to a familiar team that we've seen them connected to, the Seattle Mariners. We all know the Luis Castillo situation that obviously did not go the way many thought it would. We get Frankie Montas instead. Castillo, performs well. Montas gets hurt. But then you look at Gleyber Torres, who kind of escapes this trade situation over and over and over again. In this scenario, they get a player named Emerson Hancock. And this is a really interesting player because he is a rising pitcher. Dude has upper 90s velocity, really great slider. We're going to break him down for you, kind of talk about if this makes sense. Keep in mind, we do want to keep Gleyber Torres. We're just going to talk about this as a prospective deal and from an unbiased perspective. But Ryan, before we break this down, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing well, and when you're talking about making a trade for Gleyber Torres, as you alluded to in the start of the episode, you have to remember that this was your second best hitter last year, and not second best hitter simply because the rest of the offense was bad, which it was, but because he had a really good year himself. He had a 123 WRC plus, had another season with more than 20 home runs. He had the lowest strikeout rate on the team, has a lot of the skills that you're looking for a hitter on the market, and it would be tough to see him go. But as you also mentioned, if you're getting Juan Soto, and this is the only way to make it happen and to make the financials work, you have to do it, right? Like, it's something that you can't let Gleyber Torres stop you from getting Juan Soto, which is, I don't think the Yankees should be in a position where they're looking at this and saying we can't afford both players on the team at the same time. Now, going forward, maybe the Yankees can't extend Gleyber Torres, but I'm fine with him hitting free agency, give him a qualifying offer, he'll reject it, get a pick, in the draft. I'd rather have that situation, mainly because I can control who I'm getting. I don't have to, go based off of a limited pool of players in the trade market. And also, it's 1 year of Gleyber Torres. The return is inherently going to be limited. The same way we've been talking about how the return for Juan Soto isn't going to be what people think it is. So, looking at Emerson Hancock, the stuff is pretty solid, right? The velocity is kind of up and down, right? Like, I know that, guys can build velocity quick, and he is a younger arm for sure. This is not like a guy who is, entering his age like 27 season. He is 24. He'll enter his age 25 season. He doesn't have a lot of pro experience relative to what you would expect. His minor league career, he has 241 innings pitched, and at the major league level he has 12 innings pitched. So that arm is still developing. It's still getting used to bigger workloads and all that stuff. And the stuff is interesting because he releases from a lower slot. It helps his four-seam fastball play a little bit more. His four-seam fastball gets a lot of run. Like, he gets, 15 inches of run, which is unusual for the pitch. But it works really well as a contact management pitch. He has a pretty good slider as well. It's more of a gyro slider that relies on, kind of that dropping action. His sinker is really good as well. His sinker gets plenty of run and some dip. And, of course, he has a changeup mixed in there as well. None of these pitches have really been elite whiff pitches for him yet. Perhaps that's something he develops. He's definitely gotten swings and misses in the past, at least through his minor league career. In his minor league career, he's never had a strikeout rate below 22.3% at any stop. And over the last 3 years, his swinging strike rates have been through the roof. Now, he spent a ton of time at Double-A. Like, he had been in Double-A at the back half of the 2021 season. He was there all of 2022. Then he spent most of 2023 there, and then he skipped Triple-A entirely. So, it seems that the Mariners really like what he has here. I wouldn't trade Torres for Emerson Hancock 1-for-1. I would want a little bit more personally, just because I'm not sure Hancock is a sure thing as a starting pitcher. And, if we're trading Torres for a reliever, I think I could get a little bit more, right? I think I could get a little bit of a better, profile here. If it's Hancock and a reliever, I would certainly do that because that is you getting two more pitchers. And, we kind of talked about this a little bit before the podcast. And, I thought this was an interesting idea you floated. could getting Emerson Hancock allow the Yankees to potentially just add him onto a Juan Soto deal, right? Like, are you basically, I think there was another proposal for maybe a 3-team deal between the 3 teams, between the Yankees, Padres, and Mariners. And the Padres and Mariners have made a lot of trades, so that's why they were linked to Soto a lot. Now, Jeff Passan kind of put a little bit of cold water, saying that they might abstain for monetary reasons. So, maybe they're saying, hey, you know what? We can't get a Juan Soto maybe because of the financials, but we can get a Gleyber Torres, and we can improve our infield, and we can help the Yankees a little bit by contributing a pitcher, making the return a little bit less, damaging to the Yankees' pitching depth in their farm system. I think that could work. And Alex, exploring that situation could definitely be beneficial.
I mean, why not? You look at a situation where the Yankees have their homegrown talent. You bring in a guy like Hancock, who's obviously valuable. Maybe you can leverage that for a Juan Soto trade. But let's talk about the value that Gleyber Torres has to his team. So, the big hit on Gleyber Torres is that he's a defensive liability. Nobody's questioning his offense. Had a career low strikeout rate, good home run production. I think it was a 123 WRC plus, 3.2 WAR. Like, he was a good to great player for us last season offensively. And you look at the defensive metrics, and I will counter with this. Yes, Gleyber Torres was a bit below average last year as a second baseman, but the year before that, he was excellent. So, you can't leave out some of the context. You can't leave out some of the data just to hammer home a point. You know what I mean? You have to look at the data points as a collective unit. You can't just say, oh, well, he had a bad year, so, he's not good defensively. No, he had a great defensive year in 2022, and then a slightly below average one in 2023. So, how do you really sit there and say, he's a bad defender when we've seen him be a good defender? So, in my opinion, we haven't seen the best of Gleyber Torres. He corrected his swing a little bit. He found that consistency, and on a team that actually will have more firepower, I think he could even see better results if he gets better defense. If he just reverts to his 2022 version of himself defensively, we're going to see a really good, well-rounded player in Gleyber Torres. We have not seen the best of him. We've consistently seen bad defense, good offense, bad offense, good defense. It's been kind of a seesaw with him. But if he puts that one season together where he is just good on both ends of the field, you're going to see him make an all-star team. You're going to see him become a prominent figure on this club. And we haven't seen that level of consistency. If we sign him to a long-term deal, you keep him for 2024, and he finds that consistency on both sides, the value that you have for a 26-year-old is going to be, extreme. And even if you sign him to, say, a 5-year deal, he expires when he's 32 years old. You could always move him if you need be on a controllable contract. I don't know how much he's going to earn. Maybe he earns $20 million per season. That's a lot, obviously. But the Yankees need to be getting younger and, getting older. 26 years old for a star second baseman, a guy who could be an all-star next year and has that potential. Do you want to sell on that now? I don't necessarily think that's advisable because Oswald Peraza is far from an all-star level player. DJ LeMahieu is only getting older. He had a really good second half of the year, but he's going to be 36 years old next year. How much left does he really have in the tank? We just don't know. The degradation could be fast and swift with him. I am curious to see what their alternative options would be. But if they do trade Gleyber Torres, Ryan, and I'll let you get your point in terms of discussing his value to the team. Who would you look to help replace second base? Because right now, I feel like DJ LeMahieu is probably our best option at third. I think you move Peraza to second base in that scenario, and then you kind of play that game. But you probably need to sign another player because you need kind of utility guy or another starter. How would you supplement that loss? And what do you think the value that Gleyber has to this team right now and why he should be retained?
I mean, I think Gleyber Torres is just a really good hitter, and I think it's hard to find a hitter who's going to be better than him next year. But if we wanted to find a player who could, potentially supplement that loss and kind of fill the hole of a bat first second baseman, you talked about maybe moving Peraza to second. I would keep Peraza at third because then this would open the door for maybe getting a guy like Jorge Polanco, who's rumored to be moved in the offseason. And Jorge Polanco, he mashes, right? Jorge Polanco is definitely the type of guy you look at and say, this is an impact hitter for this team. 118 WRC plus last year, 14 home runs in 80 games. He did struggle with injuries last year. That is a concern. That's 100% a concern. We're talking about a guy who has an injury-prone year the year before. He's had some monster years. He hit 33 home runs in 2021. He had a 119 WRC plus in 2022. This is also the type of guy who would profile well for Yankee Stadium. This guy, he certainly would benefit from being able to hit at a ballpark that doesn't have as tall of a wall in right field as you see in Minnesota. He also has 2 years of control. Well, not technically 2 years. The way it works is this year is a club option. The Twins have picked that up. And then the second year, the 2025 year, is also a club option. So the Yankees can go two directions here. Number one, they pick up Obviously, they would have picked up the 2024 club option because the Twins already did, and they're acquiring that year. And they say, all right, this year was really good. Jorge Polanco put up really good numbers. I'm really happy with the results we got here. We're gonna keep him. Or you could say, we like the results. We're gonna pick up his option, and we could look to flip him again. Or another situation, he doesn't play as well, kind of just doesn't work out, injury prone, whatever it may be, and you decline the option. The buyout isn't crazy. I don't even think there is a buyout. His luxury tax hit would be $10 million, so you are saving about $5 million towards the luxury tax. And if you're looking at expected home runs, he would have had 19 home runs instead of 15 last season. He would have had 19 instead of 16 the year before. This just is a guy who profiles really well for Yankee Stadium. The glove is not good, right? Like just like Gleyber Torres, the glove at second base is atrocious. He had a -5 outs above average last year and 1 defensive run saved. I'll take the outs above average being bad over the defensive run saved. I'll say that that's the better reflection of his defense here. The year prior, it was -1 defensive run saved and -9 outs above average. He's just not a good defender there. He is a poor defensive second baseman, kind of like Torres, but the bat is a switch hitting bat. He could profile well for the top of the Yankee lineup. And again, as you kind of alluded to with Peraza, like he's not necessarily an all-star caliber player. You do have the insurance in DJ LeMahieu, and maybe you just have them battle and see who's the better player. Projections do think Peraza can hold his own. Like they think he'll be roughly a league average hitter. But, this is a guy who hasn't been that, right? Like consistently has not been that, right? And hasn't shown that he is that guy yet, right? Do I think he can be? Sure. But I think that those adjustments definitely need to be made. Do the Yankees maybe have, maybe there's a boost for the young guys with James Rosen in there? Obviously, communication was an issue between the major and minor league levels. But overall, yeah, if I'm going to throw a name out there, if I'm going to throw a name out there, I think Jorge Polanco fits really well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens here, but obviously, you look at Kyler McDaniel saying that they're kind of waiting to see if the free agents, like Heimer Candelario and whatnot, Matt Chapman, if they don't end up with any of them, they may need to trade for somebody, the Mariners specifically. So, we'll see how the Yankees go about this. I don't think they're going to trade Gleyber Torres. I mean, Cashman said it a couple of weeks ago during that kind of very heated conversation with a lot of reporters that Gleyber Torres was the second best hitter on this team last year, aside from Aaron Judge. So, on a team that needs offense, why are you going to give away one of your best offensive players, especially because you have one more year of control? And $15 million for Gleyber Torres is a good deal. Like, objectively, that's a good deal. I think that he is well worth that money. Yes, he makes some boneheaded mistakes sometimes, but you add Juan Soto to the mix here, and you have a lineup, Ryan, you have a lineup that starts with, I don't know who you're going to have leading off. Like, we'll see how that goes. Maybe, let's say you have DJ LeMahieu leading off next year. You got Aaron Judge, and then let's say, I don't even know what you do with Stanton, but you have Rizzo 3, Juan Soto 4, and then Stanton 5, and then you have Gleyber Torres. Like, I don't think there's much better than that. Like that top 5, 6 guys right there. You have Gleyber Torres after Aaron Judge, Rizzo, Juan Soto, and if Stanton even shows a semblance of himself, having Gleyber after all of those guys. If you're another team and you're looking at that lineup, you're like, and you're a pitcher, you're like, how the hell do I get through that gauntlet, man? Like, that's a difficult situation to be in. You have 2 guys with over 40% on base rates. Gleyber Torres who was excellent with runners in scoring position last season. And if Stanton even showcases a small glimmer of what he was a couple of years ago, this team's going to hit a lot of home runs, and they're going to hit well with runners on base, and they're going to collect RBIs. And that's not even mentioning the development of Anthony Volpe. That's not even mentioning Austin Wells could be an average hitter at the catcher position, which would be a godsend. You know what I mean? That's not even mentioning a Kevin Kiermaier or Jason Dominguez coming one day. That's not mentioning a couple other guys, Peraza, who are going to be at the bottom of this order, obviously. Or, there's just so much potential here. There's so much hope, and I think taking Gleyber Torres out of that mix for an unproven talent, a guy that may not have an offensive identity just yet, would be a huge mistake. And I think that, people are coming into this episode wondering what this deal would even look like, why they would do this. And the Yankees, like you've said in recent episodes, Ryan, are amazing at churning out great pitching prospects. Trading for a pitching prospect, do we need to do that if we're so good at building them ourselves? Meanwhile, our infield prospects have really struggled. Like Volpe struggled last year in a lot of ways. Peraza hasn't really found his groove. Gleyber Torres came from the Cubs. This is a situation where the Yankees have really not done a great job developing high level superstar infielders over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So, ask yourself now, why are you going to trade one of those guys that you've developed and put so much effort into just for a position where you've had tremendous success developing? Feels like you're trading a weakness, for a strength, and I feel like it should be trading from a position of strength or a position of weakness, kind of the opposite there. So that's kind of my logic about this specific trade scenario. Obviously, would love to hear your perspectives down below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.